Hey everyone, so a huge national workshop on academic writing just finished up. And you know what we did? We took all the keynotes, all the big sessions, and boiled them down to the absolute essentials. The big question is, what does it actually take to be a modern scholar today? Well, let's dive in and find out.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? Just staring at that blinking cursor on a blank page, wondering, where do I even start? It can be so intimidating. But what if, and hear me out, what if you had a solid roadmap, a guide that could take you all the way from that scary first sentence to a polished, totally future-proof paper?
Right? It's a huge deal because look, the core principles of what makes writing good, those haven't really changed. But the tools we have at our fingertips, whoa, they've changed everything. So the real puzzle is, how do you take that old school academic seriousness and mix it with powerful new tech like AI without, losing your way or your integrity? That's exactly the puzzle we're going to tackle. Okay, first things first. Before we even think about touching any AI tools, we've got to nail down the fundamentals. Seriously, because if you don't have that solid foundation, all the fancy tech in the world is, well, it's pretty much useless.
And this is where things get really interesting. One of the speakers, Professor Paresh Joshi, had this brilliant way of putting it. He called academic writing a scholarly conversation. Just think about that for a second. It means you're not just, screaming facts into an empty room. No, you're actually talking back to and building on and maybe even challenging the work of all the scholars who came before you. It's a dialogue. And this slide, this lays it all out crystal clear. The big takeaway from both Prof. Joshi and Dr. Chattopadhyay was this: your work has to be a logical, structured argument. It's all about the evidence. This isn't your personal diary, it's not a blog post. The second your writing gets too personal or just becomes a jumble of disorganized thoughts, you've basically left that scholarly conversation. You're out of the loop.
Okay, so that's the big picture theory. Now let's get down to business. Let's talk about the practical stuff, the actual toolkit. These are strategies you can literally start using on the very next paper you write. All right, check this out. This little method from Dr. Kalyan Chattopadhyay is an absolute game changer. It's called the PIE method, and here's why it's so great. It forces every single paragraph to be its own little mini argument. You make your point, you illustrate it with some kind of evidence, and then you explain how it all connects. Simple, right? Kiss those long, rambling paragraphs goodbye. This is just clean, logical, and super effective. So what about that all-important introduction? Dr. Clement Nador-Simpa laid out this really powerful three-move structure. You can almost think of it like telling a story. Move 1, you set the scene, give the context. Move 2, you talk about what other researchers have already said on the topic. And then, move 3, this is the big one. You point out the gap. What's missing from the conversation. And that gap, that's not a problem. That's your golden opportunity. That's exactly where your research slides in. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. AI, artificial intelligence. Now, we really need to reframe how we think about this. It is not a shortcut to cheat the system. Think of it more like a co-pilot. Yeah, a co-pilot can help you fly higher and faster, for sure. But guess what? You still have to be the one who knows how to actually fly the plane. Now listen up, because this is crucial. Before you even think about typing a prompt, you have to understand a term that Dr. Nigam Dave talked about, AI hallucination. What is it? It's when an AI just makes stuff up. Totally fabricated info, a fake quote, a research study that never happened, and it presents it to you like it's 100% factual. And let me be perfectly clear. This is, without a doubt, the single biggest danger to your credibility as a scholar if you're using these tools. So how do we use it without getting burned? Well, this slide basically gives us the golden rules. Go ahead, use it for brainstorming ideas. But, and this is a huge but, you have got to fact-check everything. Ask it for suggestions on how to structure your paper, sure, but you are the one who has to build the actual argument. It's your assistant, okay? Not your author. It's a great tool to break through writer's block, but it is never a substitute for your own brain. Okay, so we've got the theory, we've got the tools, but what happens when the pressure is really on? How does this all work in the real world? Let's take a look at a case study from the workshop, getting ready for a massive competitive exam, like the UGC NET. This is where these skills really get put to the test.
And I love this quote from Dr. Kalyani Valath. It's fantastic because it just hits the nail on the head about what makes academic work truly original. Your work can't just be generic. The absolute best stuff is what she calls situated knowledge.
That means you're connecting the big, abstract theories to your personal, cultural, intellectual context. That's the secret sauce. That's what separates a real, meaningful contribution from just, rehashing what everyone else has already said. And to even start creating that situated knowledge, you have to know what conversation you're stepping into, right? Dr. Vollep used this quick timeline of literary criticism just to make a point. Look, you don't have to memorize every single name on this list. That's not the goal. The principle here is what matters, and it's universal. It's about understanding how ideas have changed and evolved over time, whether it's from Aristotle to Derrida or from Newton to Einstein. Knowing that history is how you find your own unique spot in it.
And what about when you're actually in that high-pressure exam room? Dr. Vollep's advice was super clear. It's all about strategy. It's not about just brute force memorizing a bunch of facts. You got to use logic. Knock out the answers that are obviously wrong or just absurd. Think like a scientist, analytically, not with your emotions. Trust me, those critical thinking skills are every bit as important as just knowing the facts cold. All right, we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the ground rules, the practical tools, and even how to think straight when the pressure's on. So let's pull it all together now. What does the path forward for a truly future-ready scholar actually look like? And here you go. This is basically your checklist for academic excellence. We pulled these 5 points directly from the biggest lessons of the workshop. If you can really master these, you're not just going to succeed with your writing, you're going to become a much more responsible, thoughtful, and independent scholar. That's the real prize. Because in the end, that's what this is all about, isn't it? These skills, they're not just about passing some test or getting a good grade. They're the tools you need to actually contribute to that huge, ongoing scholarly conversation we talked about. They're for building something totally new, something that only you can build. So I guess the only question left is, what new knowledge are you going to build?